Keyboard shortcuts are there to streamline your workflow, to make things easier than going into the menus. But when it comes to Inkscape, there are a lot of them. And I mean a lot. So today, I'm going to show you the most commonly used ones. Hello my friends, welcome back to a brand new video. Rob here from Button Press Graphics, and today I'm going to be showing you the most commonly used keyboard shortcuts in Inkscape. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, what better way to start when it comes to keyboard shortcuts than showing you the basics? The universal shortcuts. Well, most of them are universal anyway, and Inkscape will be no different. First off, the most common of them all, the undo function. Now, you might be aware that this is a keyboard shortcut that works in pretty much every app that you're likely to use. Say you wanted to create a square, but it's not quite square. Or you wanted to add something, but it's not quite where you want it to be. Well, you can undo by holding Ctrl and Z, or Ctrl and Z if you're in the States. And just like that, you will undo the last action that you have made. But you can also redo by holding Ctrl Shift and then pressing the Z key. You can redo your last action. This can be stacked multiple times. So no matter how many pieces you create, you can undo each one in order. But say you wanted to move one of them and then you don't move it to the right place. Undo is there for you again. Next is copy and paste. Again, two universal shortcuts that everyone will probably be aware of. Ctrl and C will copy whatever you have selected. Say I take this one here, and then I can move somewhere else and do Ctrl and V to paste it wherever my cursor is. Again, if you paste it into a place that you don't want it, Ctrl and Z will get rid of them. Next is to select everything. You might be aware, but if you have a lot of different objects like you can see on screen right now, simply holding Ctrl and pressing A will select everything. This is a good way if you want to select everything without having to draw the selection box over the top. Next is one that I use quite frequently. Ctrl and D equals duplicate. With a single object selected, you can Ctrl D, and then you will create an exact duplicate of the thing that you had selected. But this is not just done with one object at a time. You can select a full group of objects, Ctrl D, and you will automatically duplicate the entire selection. Also, as an added little extra, if you left click to move something around your canvas, did you know you can press spacebar to stamp a copy of that image? Just like that. Next is one that will help you to move and resize and edit all of your objects in one fell swoop. It's called Group. By selecting everything and then Ctrl and G, you can now group all of the objects into one shape. But if you wanted to ungroup them all, you can do exactly the same but hold Shift at the same time. So Ctrl-Shift-G and you will ungroup them all again. Another keyboard shortcut when it comes to the basics is holding Shift while you select objects. This will allow you to select multiple objects of your own choosing. So before we move on to the next set of shortcuts, why even bother learning these? Well, that is very simple. Say you wanted to group all of these together. I can group them all together by selecting all and then grouping, just like that. And you saw how quickly I did that. But say I wanted to do that normally without using any shortcuts. Normally, you would have to click and drag a selection box around all your objects. Now you have them all selected, you would need to go up to this button here, which says Group. Failing that, you would have to select them all and go to Object, and then scroll down to Group or Ungroup. These are keyboard shortcuts. By definition, these keyboard shortcuts are called shortcuts for that reason, because it makes it a whole lot easier to streamline your workflow. And even if you're only saving 1 or 2 seconds, at the end of your project, you can end up saving a lot of time. Basic editing. Now what you might find using the keyboard shortcuts is every single tool that you will use will have different behaviors when using certain keys, mainly the Shift and Control. So let's take this square for example. If I select it once, I have the rescale handles, these little arrows on all of the sides. If I try and scale up, as you can see, the anchor point will be on the opposite end, as signified by the little red plus sign. However, if I hold Shift while I rescale, the anchor point stays in the middle. And when I let go, you can see what happens. And this works for the side handles as well. If I move it like this, I'm just moving one side in and out, but holding Shift, I can move them both at the same time. So what about Control? Well, Control works in a similar way, but slightly different. As you can see, I'm scaling 2 sides, the 2 sides that the corner relates to. So I'm scaling the top right corner, which means the top and the right side of the box. But holding Control will scale it perfectly symmetrical. For example, if I come here and then I move to the left, I'm going in a horizontal line, but it will scale down. As soon as I let go of Control and I scale to the left again, as you can see, it just scales in the side and the top relating to where my cursor is. Now let's take the side handles. Again, moving left to right just extends the box or decreases it. Holding Control will keep the proportions of the box and scale it up. So what happens when you hold both of them together? Using the side handles, it will use a center anchor point, the little cross in the middle. The same will be said if you hold Control, Shift and use the corners. So what about the rotation handles? Holding Shift while you rotate from the corner will make the anchor point appear on the opposite side. Holding Control will rotate in 15-degree increments as shown on the bottom info bar. Holding both will allow you to keep the anchor point on the opposite side and rotate around in 15-degree increments. I suggest experimenting and finding exactly what each one will do just by holding Control, Shift, or a combination of the two. When it comes to a combination of holding these keys while using your cursor, each individual tool along the left-hand toolbar will work differently. So experiment and find out exactly what each one does for yourself. Color swatches. The color swatches at the bottom of the screen are not just there for quick ease of access. You can still use keyboard shortcuts in exactly the same way. Select the shape that you want to edit, and as you know, you can come along these colors at the bottom and you can select whichever color you want. By using the mouse wheel, you can scroll between all the different colors, or you can select these two buttons and this menu button here to select exactly what different color scheme you would like to use. At the moment, as you can see, I've got the Inkscape default selected. But there is more that you can do. By coming down to the fill box, the stroke box, and this opacity box, just by holding Shift, Control, and scrolling, you can scroll between all the different colors within that range. So, for example, the fill color, as I'm using my scroll wheel, it is cycling through all the different colors. Now, this is better for you to understand if I bring up the fill and stroke menu. At the moment, I've got the HSV tab open, which is selected here. And as you can see, we have the hue, the saturation, we have the value, which is basically the brightness, and we have the alpha channel, which is the opacity. If I was to come down to the fill box and I was just to use the scroll wheel, as you can see, it is cycling through all the different hues that you can get, or the different colors. If I hold Shift, it will then start to dull the saturation. Holding Control will increase or decrease the brightness or the value of the color. Now, this will work on the stroke box too. But you can also use the scroll wheel on the opacity to turn the opacity down or up. Now, when it comes to the fill and stroke menu and the color swatches at the bottom, you might find it easier to have this menu open and just select like this, or by simply using the opacity at the bottom. Tool shortcuts. Instead of going to the left-hand toolbar in order to select your tools, you can use the keyboard shortcuts to get from one to another. So say you wanted to use the select tool, but you had your text tool selected. Well, you can simply just press S and you are straight back to your select tool. Using the dropper tool will give you the exact same color, but you would have to select the shape that you want to recolor, go to the dropper tool on the left-hand toolbar, select it, go to the color you wanted, select that, and then go back to your select tool to get back to your resize handles. That is a lot of left and right. Instead, you could simply have your select tool selected by pressing S, select the thing that you want to change, and then press D to get to your dropper tool. This instantly takes you to your dropper tool. You can go to the color you want, select it, and then press S again, and you are straight back. So using these kind of tool selectors are going to be a much quicker way of streamlining your workflow. Let me show you a quick comparison. Let's pretend I was using the text tool. Now I want to change this circle to this color. This is how you would normally do it. Then for comparison side by side with it, I'm going to show you exactly how much quicker it is to use the shortcuts. Did you see the difference that makes? This is because the keyboard shortcuts are there to do exactly what I said in the beginning, to streamline your workflow. So what other keyboard shortcuts are there for your tools? Well, you've got the select tool, the dropper tool. Now I'm going to show you the other three that make things a lot easier. The node tool. To get to the node tool, you simply have to select whatever you want to change and press N, and you are straight to your node tool. Say you wanted to draw your own shape. Right next to the pen tool, just press B, and you are now able to draw your own shape. And if you want to get back to the text tool, you can simply press T, and you are back to your text tool. As a little bit of an added extra, if you simply highlight the tool on the left hand side, like the rectangle tool, it will show you in brackets what the shortcut is. As you can see, for the rectangle tool, it is an R. For the circle tool, it is an E for ellipse. For the shape builder, X. These are the ones that you could do with learning because it will streamline your workflow and each one will be different, but they tend to be just one letter. Path commands. Path commands also have a lot of keyboard shortcuts. Now when you are using Inkscape, it will not be long, as I'm sure you're aware, before you go to path, object to path. This happens a lot when you're trying to convert your objects into a path. For example, this circle, it is still an ellipse as shown in this bottom information bar here. But in order to get it to turn into a path, you need to go to path, object to path. Now using the node tool, you can see that it is actually a path. But let's undo that for now. And as you can see, now it is back to being an ellipse. Well, instead of going to path, object to path, you can hold Control, Shift and C. And this will change it to a path. Now there's a slightly different one as well. Let's take this square for example. As you can see, it is already a path. But if we add a stroke onto this, and then we turn off the fill color, now it is a path in the shape of a square with no fill and a stroke. We can see this because with it selected, it has only got 4 nodes. Now in order to turn this into its own individual shape with 8 nodes, 1 for each inside corner and 1 for every outside corner, we would need to go to path, stroke to path. And as you can see, well, there's more nodes because it is a curved corner, but as you can see, now it is its own path. If we undo that, it is back to being a stroke. Well, instead of going to path, stroke to path, you can simply Control Alt C. So you've got Control Shift C for object to path and Control Alt C for stroke to path. Say you want to combine all 3 of these shapes together. Normally you would have to go to Path, Union. But instead, by using Control and the plus key on your number pad, you can add them all together in the union effect. This also works for the minus key and the asterisk key all on the number pad. If we select both of these and then we select the minus key, that is difference, like so. But if we select both of these again and then we select the asterisk, that is intersection. These are the path effects that you will use the most: object to path, stroke to path, union, difference, and intersection. And that is it, my friends. Some of the most commonly used keyboard shortcuts within Inkscape. Like I said at the beginning, there are a lot of keyboard shortcuts to learn when it comes to Inkscape. The ones that I've mentioned today are just the ones that I personally use a lot, and I know a lot of you people out there use as well. So these are the ones that I think you should be learning before any others. But if you are a seasoned pro and you already use all of these shortcuts, I'm going to leave a link in the description that will take you to the Inkscape website and give you a full list of all of the different shortcuts. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. Did you know that you can become a member of the Button Press Graphics YouTube channel? Well, now you do. You will get a lot of added benefits and you will directly support the channel, enabling me to make much better content in the future. Also, you can send in your artwork into the Creative Corner. This is a regular section where I will showcase your work in a future video. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to bid you all a fond farewell, and I will see you next time.